this has got some Oriental characters in it, so I think the name is Kishu, but I could be wrong. And this was in response to how to set up the sync function on the Roland MX-1, a video I did in November 2019. And Kishu writes, how could it be clocked from an incoming audio instead? And it's actually quite interesting, or quite easy. The MX-1 does not have an input for a trigger. Okay, so that's the first thing. Or a beat matching feature. There is an area device that gives you that, or there was. And you would need to externally connect an external device to perform that function, and then convert it into MIDI that you can then clock to, if that makes any sense. The MX-1 doesn't allow you to do that directly. But there's also a number of software products that can do that, so you can connect it up to your machine and use the machine clock as the source, and then clock the machine to the sync code, and it should do the same thing. But you kind of have to work it through. I've seen a hardware tool. I've seen various hardware tools that do this, but off the top of my head, I think there was one from Kenton a few years back that did this, but I'll be brutally honest and say I can't remember what they were called. But if you search on the internet, I'm sure you'll find it.
Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon.
This next one comes from Robert Crimson in response to the Death of the Kronos video, a video I did in December 2021. And Robert writes, upgrade to a Kronos 288, having had a Chrome 88 and a N264 stolen in 2016. What a blessing. I owned almost every Korg workstation since the M1, and have to say by far this is my favourite without exception, of not having aftertouch of the N264, as when playing certain organ sounds and synths. Kronos is king. I'm guessing I'm going to have to start saving for an upgrade. You and me both. Thank you very much for breaking it to us. I'm off to check the US Korg site. Merry Christmas and and Festivus for the rest of us. Well, this was obviously done. This comment was obviously made around Christmas, hence the Happy Christmas piece. But it is great to hear that you did upgrade to Kronos. I don't think you will regret to that. Not so great to hear about the circumstances. I think people, personally, my view is that you should cut their hands off, but that's a different kettle of fish. If you want to, most of this robbery stuff is around fueling a habit of some description, rather than actually pinching to order. But then again, I have nothing here to pinch, so there's nothing I can say about theft apart from the fact it's normally to feed an addiction, which is what I just said. Probably would have been sold by the thief for 20 cents in the dollar, which just undermines the worth of the equipment. Quite a few years back, I had my turntables and mixer stolen from a friend's. They were temporarily being stored while I was moving, and that was really painful. Someone broke into their house, ransacked it, walked out with a 6-foot coffin. So bearing in mind, I had two SL1210s, Techniques, and I had a full Cytronics mixer stack in that particular coffin, and it was 6 foot long, and it weighed a ton, and it was awkward to move, but they still managed to walk out of their house with 6-foot aluminium coffin. The police stated they had to have a vehicle by the house that was, as the amount stolen could not have been transported particularly far. Like you, was replaced under insurance, but it was a really painful process. I had to prove they were mine. That was the first thing. So it meant going back and ferreting receipts. Now, I'm quite lucky that I tend to keep receipts for stuff like that. I got receipts for all my keyboards that I've bought, either brand new or off eBay, so that I can prove ownership. All my synths are marked. So I've marked every single synth I own with in a certain place on the keyboard, so that I can instantly go to it if it was ever recovered or whatever by the police. But you know, the process of going through an insurance claim is particularly tedious, because by its very nature, insurance companies don't want to pay out, and that is the problem. You have to prove that, you know, and the thing about musical equipment is it is so transportable, you know, and things like the turntables and mixers and smaller keyboards. I mean, it's definitely not easy to transport the bigger stuff, but the smaller stuff, you know, is relatively easy to transport away. You know, boot of car underneath or something, and away it goes. But I just think it's, in a lot of instances, when you steal this stuff from somebody, you are effectively depriving them of their living, and that to me is the biggest problem, because a lot of musicians and DJs and people who work in the industry tend not to earn a lot of money. You know that, you know, unless you're, you know, you're in a successful band and you're you're gigging 5 nights a week and you're pulling down a decent amount of money per night. You don't earn a lot of money, and you know, losing equipment that cost you several £1000s is A, painful, B, it's your living, and then you've got to then battle the insurance company. And I know a friend of mine who did this. Eventually the insurance company paid out, but he ended up, because he needed equipment, he ended up having to go and replace it. He took everything on loans, and then was able to clear the loans several months after. But he effectively had to go and take a loan for a whole raft of stuff to put stuff back, so that he could earn a living. And of course, the insurance company never compensated him from the interest on the loan. They just compensated him for the cost of the equipment. Anyway, like you, I'm saving to acquire the next device. With the launch of Nautilus, which I believed at Christmas was still, you know, a year to 18 months away from where. From that point of view, and I'm still of the same opinion. What with chip shortages and manufacturing problems, I still think the next Korg major synth may appear winter NAMM 2023.